Hello! Welcome back to the D365 Advanced Functional Training series. In previous videos, we explained how to create and maintain the user-defined labels and how to apply them in the D365 templates and D365 improved print destinations. If you plan to extensively use these labels, it could be useful to maintain the labels and their translations via the D365FO Open in Excel experiences. D365 prepared several data entities for the export-import scenarios of user-defined labels and related tables. Two of them are especially interesting because they provide the Open in Excel experiences from the View by Label form and View All Translations form. We use this approach if we want to quickly add a lot of new user-defined labels. I can see the current state in Excel. I will add UD test 1 and 2. I need to specify the global label ID as well, based on the rule as we see above. There should be an @label prefix. Here it is for the first new label, and for the second. I can drag these few more rows downside and let Excel follow the incrementing rule. I need to publish this new data and go and check the result in F&O. We see the newly added labels here, and this approach with Excel was much faster than adding the labels one by one through this form. These labels still don't have any associated translation records, so we will quickly add the empty translation records by selecting all new labels and clicking the Add for Missing Languages menu item. We see that a total of 25 empty translation records was added, that is, translation in 5 languages for 5 labels. Now we can go and enter the translation content. We can do it while in this type of view, or switch to the View All Translations, where we have a flat view of all translations for all labels and languages. If you have a lot of user-defined labels, maybe you will decide to get a professional translator work on the translations for some language. In that case, you will use the Open in Excel option on this form. I can work directly here while connected to D365F&O, or I could send a copy of this document to a translator, and when I get the file with translations back, then copy it here and publish the changes. Let's say that I will enter the English translations directly here. To make it easier, I will first filter the records by language and select only English. Now I can remove the filter and publish the new content. We get the info that the workbook has been updated, so I can go back to F&O and check the result. I would like to show you one advanced technique for working with the user-defined labels. Let's imagine that we are working on a design for the purchase order report. We want to show this field on the report, but we noticed that its label has too long translation. So we decide to create a new user-defined label that will be based on this system label, so that we can keep its translations we like and modify the long ones. First, we need to know which system label ID is used here, but we don't want to depend on a developer to find this form in Visual Studio and give us the label ID. That's why D365 has added the label ID information to the form information form. We see the label ID is this, so we will select it and copy it. Back to the user-defined labels form, we click New from System Label and enter the label ID that we previously copied, and the ID of the user-defined label that is to be created out of this system label. OK. And we see the new user-defined label with the translations of the system label automatically added. Now I can go through the translations and modify them as needed. For example, I will make the Spanish and French translations shorter. And what if we should enter a lot of new user-defined labels based on various system labels? We can keep identifying the required system labels one by one in different F&O forms, and for each of them repeat the previously demonstrated process. Or we can use the user-defined labels data entity to automate the process. Let me demonstrate it. I have already prepared one export job, which I have configured to use the D365 user-defined labels data entity and Excel export format. I will use it to export the user-defined labels, just because it will give me the correct format of the file that I need to populate with the labels for import. Export now. The job is successfully done, and we can download the Excel and open it. Let's take few labels from the same purchase order form and copy their IDs into this Excel. We need to populate these three columns based on system label ID. It will be the system label ID we got from the purchase order form. Then the label ID. It will be how we want to name the user-defined label. And we will also need to populate the global label ID as the label ID with the @dots_label prefix. We will have problem in this first Excel column because this colon sign tells Excel that it will be a formula. So we should first select the whole column, format cells, and specify that they should be treated as text. Now we can add the global label ID. I will repeat the same process for two more labels. We don't need the previous entries in this Excel, so I will delete them and save the Excel. Now I can use the same data entity to import this file. I have already the import job, but I need to specify the entity. It will be the D365 user-defined labels, and the source data format is Excel. Now we upload our Excel, say import now, wait for the job to be executed, and we got the success status, so we can go into our user-defined labels and see the result. Here are our new labels. We can leave these translations or modify them as needed. Let me show you one common scenario. I will go to the supported label languages and add new language, Slovenian. On this system, I don't have the Slovenian localization, so all the Slovenian translations for these labels will be the same as English. As we saw earlier, the fastest way to add new translation records for the newly added language is to go into the grid view, select all labels and click Add for missing languages. User-defined labels that are based on a system label will automatically get the new translations records populated by the matching translation of the system label. I can review them and fix the Slovenian translations. In this video, we learned about some D365 data entities that are useful when working with user-defined labels. Some of them we use for the Open in Excel experiences to quickly import new user-defined labels and their translations. We also saw how to use the data management import to add multiple user-defined labels based on the system labels together with their translations.